Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video I'm going to be going over Jacki and giving you my ideas on what kind of skills you need to upgrade on her, the combat mods you can use, weapons, and how I'd kind of see her being used in a team. This is her with maxed out level and maxed out lieutenant system. You can see her attack goes pretty high. She is a leader, so she's going to get boosted by the 1535s around her. Later on in the video when I do the team building part, you'll see that she's going to have a lot higher attack stat. If you want to see the breakdown of how all of her skills work, leader skill, all that good stuff, I have done a preview video of her before, but in this we're mainly just going to be going over what I think you should do when it comes to actually upgrading this character. So when it comes to her skills, she gets a maxed out rush once she gets to LB3. You don't have to use any military supplies, and the same can be said for her signature move as well, which is obviously a nice little bonus. When it comes to her passives, I would say the ones you want to improve the most are going to be precision itself, because she is a control character. She's got quite a lot of control in her kit. She's got it on her rush, she's got on her signature move, and you could potentially get on her weapon if you wanted to use the weapon where when you actually crit you get a 1-turn confuse on a target as well. That is obviously up to you, or whether you actually have that weapon in the first place. Now the other two that I think are good are Panic, because this way that if she does actually get resisted, or if she's doing a basic attack, she has a 40% chance to confuse a target just on a basic attack, and this kind of works a little bit like the specialist skill Confounding. So she's, even though she's a leader, she's got a little bit of specialist skill potential in her, but she will have to crit. Fortunately, being surrounded by those 1535 weapons, she's going to have quite a high crit rate. Now, Thrive is completely up to you. I don't think it's that important, but you will do more damage. But if you are limited on military supplies, I'd say that's probably the least important of all of them. Dream Team is great, even if you do not have any NWO members in the team. Jacki will get this bonus, and 100% stun resist for the first 3 turns is awesome. This does mean that you can counter characters like Marcus with Jacki, where Marcus has 60% stun on his passives. She will not be able to get stunned because of that 100% stun resist. And that does also mean you could get the control off on him first turn if you are having problems with characters like Marcus. Now move on to the combat mods, and I have talked a little bit about this on my streams recently. And I think the best thing you could do with Jacki, as she is not really a primary damage dealer, is just try to utilize your heavy damage dealing mods in, let's say, like a HP set. That way you're probably not going to be giving them to your Lydias or anything like that, but you are going to still want to increase the attack stats of Jacki, and that could be an easy way to go. And the reason I think this is the best way to go is because if you have someone, let's say like Andrea or Michonne 2000 or anything like this, they're the characters you need every single bit of stat damage out of them, because they're all about the attack. Whereas Jacki isn't all about the attack, but it is going to help. So first of all, to keep things simple, we're just going to go with attack on HP, attack stat, just boost that attack stat up a little bit. You can see it goes up by a couple of thousand already. And then on the top right hand corner, we're going to do attack versus the trait, just to double down on the trait that she's going to do, because she's not a primary damage dealer. This way you're going to be able to do more damage against strong characters that you're already doing. This can be nice as well, because depending on how you want to build Jacki as a character or the teams that Jacki's going to be on, you could primarily try and take it in against particular teams. And that's where the resists are going to be kind of like, I may say one thing, but you may have another idea based on the team you're trying to take it in on. So for instance, if you're primarily trying to build Jacki to go in against Barker defense teams, which I have seen a couple more Barker defense teams pop up with the likes of William, Marcus, and all these green characters on those teams, and Mike, very defensive characters. Heavy hitting reds are going to be very good against those. So you could primarily go for like main resist and taunt resist, and I think that would be an easy combo for the 2 resists you could go here. But if you're not going to be using them against her against those teams, or you're going to be using her against a lot of teams, you might want to switch things up. I think taunt resist is quite good right now. Lots of teams have heavy taunts. Even if you're going to use Jacki lead against, let's say, Pamela defense teams, there's still tons of taunt there. So you can't really go wrong with taunt right now. And that's going to give us the 3 mod bonus. So you can see the HP also gets boosted up by a few thousand. And this is nice, of course. It's going to stop things like burn and bleed doing as much impact, even though she does reduce it by 100%, on the first couple of turns because of her leader skill. Afterwards, you can potentially still get bled and burn, and there are going to be characters out there that have bleed and burn on their signature moves, rushes, maybe even in their passives. So these things are going to pop up from time to time. Now, when it comes to the auxiliary mod, because she's a control character, you could potentially go with the pretty much the only form of control that is in auxiliary, which is going to be AP drain. This is going to have a better chance to actually proc against someone who has got a resist on their passives, and there are a couple of characters that do have AP drain resist, but it won't change anything else other than that. Like, you haven't got a better chance for the mod to actually proc because she is a control character. You've just got a better chance that someone doesn't resist it, which I guess it does mean it's got a better chance to proc, but because there's no actual resists for AP drain at the moment, only on very particular characters, generally speaking, it's not going to be that big a deal. But it is nice because she is a support character. Unless you can think of something else that's going to be useful for her, I would say something like AP drain can sometimes just save the day. And most of her things are on hit, her rush is not. So this will not be able to proc with her rush, but it will be able to proc with her basic attacks and her signature move. Now, the last mod is going to come down to your personal, situation. You could go for HP on HP if you have an abundance of these mods. I personally do not. The one I've got there is only one of like 2 or 3 that I actually have within Platinum. You could give her some defense to just give her some nice all-round stats. It's completely up to you, or you could go for that extra resist. Personally, I would definitely be sticking a main resist in this slot for Jacki. And that's the combo I'd kind of go with right now because of the characters I'm personally running into quite a lot and the kind of teams I'd want to use Jacki against. I'd be utilizing her against those Barker defense teams. Now, I could potentially do an attack down resist on her, but because she's not a damage roll character, she's not actually going to get hit by that Barker lead skill, which is a big bonus. So now we've locked all these mods in, you can see her attack and her HP got boosted by about 5,000, which isn't too bad, but it is going to be boosted quite a bit more because she's the leader. She's just going to boost it for free when she goes in that leader slot. Okay, so now we have her in the leader spot, as you can see, and she's going to get a massive boost. It goes up to 50,000 attack. That's just from this base weapon that she has and her leader skill. We're going to put another weapon in her hands. What I'm going to do is put a kind of nearly maxed out weapon of the same type of her base weapon, and it would be this weapon here. This is pretty much her base weapon maxed out. You actually get a little bit more attack on her base weapon than this. I would definitely say it is worth maxing out her base weapon. I would recommend just maxing out her base weapon as a 4-star, 5-starring it, and then maxing out her 5-star weapon as seen on the screen, but making the attack 50% instead of 45%. And as you can see, her attack stat goes up to 64,000, and we're not done just yet. Well, I'm going to surround her with 3 characters with 1535 weapons, and this will amplify her attack stat more. And we'll have that last character holding an attack buff weapon, probably the alert buffs weapon, but you could go for a strong base team if you so wish and use strong attacks instead. Okay, so a makeshift team has been put together and she nearly gets up to that 100,000 mark. She's obviously not going to get as high as some other leaders with the HP set that I'm using, but like I said, she doesn't really need it. Having some, actual good stats is probably a decent way to go. If we look at the other characters I've got in here, it's a decent combo, lots of control, and this is perfect for those Barker defense teams, like I was saying, just because Barker defense teams are strong and tough, and we've got our main damage dealers being alert and fast. That is doing trait damage as much as I'm taking trait damage too. These are some very early hitters and early controllers in this team as well. The defense team I'm just going to be doing some of these tests against is this team right here. You can see it's fairly defensive, got decent defense and HP ratings, just to show you the kind of team we're going to be attacking. So when the battle starts, you can obviously choose what you want to do with the likes of Jacki's control. This is where she's awesome because she's adding control, which we don't have much of at first turn. We have pretty much just Mirabelle, and you could use them in the same team if you so wish. It'd be completely up to you. But against these Barker teams and some Ezekiel teams, or even some Pamela teams with these green characters surrounding them, if they have Marcus, you can see everyone's got 100% stun resist. So a couple of characters I brought in, kind of unusable on that first turn. This is where Jacki is going to be really important. Selecting the right character is important too. I could select someone who I find to be a problem, let's say Marcus, or I could select someone that I could just take out and won't be able to protect their entire team, which I'm going to do, which would be this dude himself, which would be the shields. Now, when I do the signature move, I can potentially proc the weapon. So he has got an impair weapon. I did not. but it isn't that big a deal with Jacki because her main power, in my opinion, is her signature move and then her passives, her weapon, her leader skill. Her rush is a nice bonus, but you're going to rely on other characters' rushes to really get the damage done. And her rush, if it does come around, is more just for a bit of control. Even though it does do damage, it's more for control. And then after that, you just decide what you're going to do with your other characters. You just try to eliminate characters one by one as you would. And then Jacki's just going to just support her characters, teammates as it goes. Just make sure if you are taking characters like Diamond and Holiday Hero Carl against these sort of teams, you cannot do your signature move turn 1. It is impossible because of the defense team characters having 100% stun resist in this case. So that is something to be very aware of. But the next turn, however, is a very different matter because you can choose to do it if you so wish. Stun should be available and you can stun pretty much anyone, especially if you've got Diamond because she counters the likes of Marcus with her basic attacks. You can see he was dazed. He couldn't give himself 100% stun resist again. So there are some very nice combos here. Now, as you can see, when I just quickly went through some raids without speaking at the same time, can be very hard to do. You can see that just the first turn control is very useful and I can do it in very different ways. There's different ways to go through teams. Obviously, you can have different priority characters. Everyone has their own issues with the teams that they found. Everyone has their own strengths with teams, you know, that's the way it goes. But she adds a lot of nice control. The leader skill is great and I think could work against pretty much any defense team because she's not the reliant damage. You know, it's kind of like taking Negan as a leader. He's just going to work against pretty much any defense team. But if you do require a character to have burn and bleed resist on that leader skill, she is going to be amazing for you. Obviously, Zachary's on defense teams can be extremely hard to actually beat. If you don't get those all those resists to proc, you're going to get characters taken out. There are more cleansed characters coming out and they're being a bit more accessible, but they're very one-dimensional teams that way. You know, you have to use very specific characters, whereas using Jacki as a leader is not necessarily a bad way to go in any situation. She isn't how effective the teams that she's in are not determined by her damage, which is basically up to you. Whenever you want to use fast, a mixture of fast and alert like I did, you could use all tough, you could use all strong. The choice is up to you. So that's just my basic ideas on Gold Mythic Jacki, a little build to go with her. You don't have to go for attack basically on the set. You could just get all the nice attack mods on more a defensive set. I would say HP is a better way to go just because generally speaking HP is better than defense on attack teams, just because if you do come up against burn and bleed, it is nice to be able to absorb more damage. Getting dogpiled is not something that Jacki's going to have to really deal with. That's going to be your other damage dealers a lot of the time. As you saw in those teams, Lydia was having a hard time with it, but that's kind of just the way it goes. Do tell me your thoughts on Jacki, any ideas you have when it comes to building her for your attack teams. What sort of attack teams are you going to build her in? Is she going to be the leader in pretty much all your teams? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.